Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Channel 51 News for an in-depth interview with possibly one of the most significant characters, human beings out of the United States, with a story to tell that when you understand what Cathy O'Brien is about to explain, your entire worldview will change. And the purpose of this particular Clinton crime series interview, the first of a series, is to explain exactly what we are up against in the lead up to massive change that's going to affect all of us around the world. Now, only today, brand new evidence has popped up where we've seen James Comer is now talking about, I'm going to bring some information up for you in a moment, but he is now calling for the Epstein files. That's right, the Epstein files to reach the House Oversight Committee. And on a day where Bill Barr, the former Attorney General, is now in a closed-door session giving details of what he knows about the Epstein case. These are truly extraordinary times. Cathy O'Brien is a nationally and internationally recognised US government whistleblower on the subject of MK mind control and healing from it. Knowledge is our defence against mind control, and Cathy's experience empowers her insight into far-reaching effects of mind control on society today and what you can do to reclaim, protect and expand free thought. In 1995, when the US National Security Act was invoked on her testimony for US Congressional Permanent Select Committees on Intelligence Oversight, that testimony was released through her book, TRANCE Formation of America, written with Mark Phillips. Cathy O'Brien, welcome to Channel 51 News. Good to see you again.
You too. Thank you very much for having me on.
Cathy, when you just skeet over just looking at your bio, acknowledging the books that you've written, it's almost as if it's a parallel reality, even for us who've been following along for years now. Now, I know it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable when we talk about dissociation, etc., but when you now take stock in the weeks before both Hillary and Bill Clinton are to face the Oversight Committee on their knowledge of Epstein information, how do you now feel? Are you on the front foot somewhat, or are you still apprehensive with what you've learned over the last couple of weeks?
Well, the evidence against the Clintons' involvement in child sex trafficking and MK mind control and drug trafficking, all the funding mechanisms of this globalist agenda that's being pushed so hard today, the evidence has been in so long and no justice has been served. So I'm very skeptical of anything that they have that they can contribute aside from more lies. And I'm mostly concerned for the fact that we don't have a justice system to prosecute them or the other perpetrators through. This corruption has been going on for decades and is deeply rooted. And I'm more concerned for that aspect of things. I'm also concerned that national security will be invoked and people still won't get the information because that has been their blanket of secrecy now for decades.
It's funny you bring that up because you're absolutely right. You can use anything as long as you can say that it's national security based. It's the ultimate cover story. And yet it doesn't make sense. How can it be for national security if the people who are meant to be secured within the nation are the ones that are being abused and harmed in the process? It just doesn't add up. This is what we've seen today popped up from James Comer. He says that he's confirmed that the DOJ will begin sending House oversight documents related to Epstein on Friday. Officials with the Department of Justice have informed us that the department will begin to provide Epstein-related records to the Oversight Committee this Friday. There are many records in custody of the DOJ, and it will take the department time to produce all the records and ensure the identification of victims and any child sexual abuse material are redacted. I appreciate the Trump administration's commitment to transparency and efforts to provide the American people with information about this matter. Now, there are many crimes that are being uncovered at the moment. Russiagate, considered to be the low-hanging fruit, of course, but it's the same usual suspects. And Trump himself even said that the other day when he talked about the FBI and the CIA, etc., and naming people like Comey and Brennan, etc. But when you see that information there and the transparency, I mean, you're still obviously, we're all apprehensive that that nothing may become of it. But does that give you a little bit of encouragement, at least, that COMA is going for the truth finally to come out?
I think the truth is coming out. Ultimately, what we need more than the Epstein list and the blackmail videos is to know who is holding these blackmail videos. Where are the blackmail vaults? What are they holding them for? What is their purpose? Because those are the people that I was exposed to throughout my MK Ultra mind control victimization, were those that were holding the blackmail over others in order to perpetuate their globalist slave society agenda. Most people don't want to cooperate with it. It's against our human nature to cooperate with it. So there have been many ways that these blackmail tapes have been obtained. I think we have a far bigger picture that is going to unfold with this, but this is a good thread to pull, and hopefully their whole tapestry will come undone.
When you think about these blackmail tapes, knowing what you know, you have been a victim right at the forefront. Is it something that is divided between willing participation and some form of entrapment? Can you sort of paint a picture of the broad scope of the types of characters that have participated on the other side and created the harms? What type of characters are these people?
The people that I was exposed to deep in the Washington, D.C. swamp was under their MK Ultra mind control on a White House Pentagon level. So I was right among the high-level perpetrators, not only in the United States, but on a global scale. And they are not like us. They do not like us. They are using mind control over the global population in order to make us all more compliant with their agenda, which is just so contrary to human nature. So these perpetrators have various reasons for the blackmail tapes. For one, they don't trust each other either. So they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. And it's part of initiation into their secret clubs, like even the Masonic lodges. They're being covertly filmed with perversion films in order to keep the secrets secret and to keep people in line in case they change their mind or something else happens. They want to make sure that their secrets are secure. So they have that reason. They have reasons of using these blackmail tapes against maybe judges or politicians who are coerced into a situation. They may be drugged. There's many date rape kind of drugs out there that put them in a position of vulnerability where a child would be let in and they're filmed. And there's also families' lives that are threatened. Some people just simply take money and will comply with it. Some people comply with it because they're generationally conditioned to do so. So there's various reasons why they do it. And I was exposed to all of those because I was used in those blackmail tapes since I was a little bitty toddler, and was used at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. I was taken to the Epstein Island of its time, Mackinac Island, Michigan. And Bohemian Grove is another well-known place where these kind of horrific atrocities took place. And throughout the Caribbean and Mexico, I was there for the groundwork in the Virgin Islands for what would become Epstein Island. So there's been many of these places, and ultimately what they are is where these global leaders meet in secret and discuss their plan of control over the population. And in their process, they indulge in perversions, and wherever they are, they know those films are being made. So, a lot of them will just, wave at cameras, even if they're, hidden in the walls or whatever. But that was my experience, is that many of them knew, and others were compromised in many, many ways, especially if they held a position of power and influence that could be manipulated later for them to achieve their ultimate agenda.
Oh, Cathy. Cathy, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? So there is a willingness, a knowing, and therefore some form of feeling of insulation within the system, and to go along, to get along, etc. And so if you are operating within a system that is so corrupt at its core by design, what possible chance have you got? So is it any wonder that you are fighting this battle 31 or so years on, and you are still telling the same story? How then do you extrapolate? Do you wake up maybe at the beginning of a year and go, "This is my year now," or on a daily basis? How do you negotiate on this just to cope in your own mind? Because you are playing a very long game. You have been out there for a long time now. Your stories never change. It's just that you have to keep telling the story until one day it pops. How do you cope personally?
Well, people need to understand what mind control is about. And when I'm able to share the information, they see, oh, healing is possible. So when we know that these children have been trafficked, we know they've been ritually abused, horribly sexually raped, they can still heal. What happens to us in life is not who we are. Who we are is still within us, and it's divinely protected. And we're able to retrieve that because we have been blessed with a resiliency of body, mind, and spirit. So to be able to bring this information forward with the understanding that healing is possible is very helpful to people. It's also helpful for them to know that they have been conditioned themselves. And it's up to each and every one of us to realize that we've been manipulated, because the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a classroom, a military, a church, or the world. Trauma is the basis of it. And that is because our brains freeze in fright, leave our subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. And so we're enduring trauma after trauma as a globe. When mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population 2020, everyone got a clear view of what mind control is all about. And they're waking up to that reality at a vast rate now to see, wow, okay, so repetition is the most basic form of mind control. Mind control is a sliding scale from the torturous robotic mind control I experienced to information control. Our information was controlled all through the mind control masked as a virus experience. And we were all fed a repetitive narrative. If repetition's the most basic form of mind control, how many times did we hear mask up, get the injection, social distance? You know, it was a constant barrage, and people did it even though that's not what they would have chose to do. Fortunately for all of us, these fools, these flat thinking, narrow minded perpetrators made a huge mistake having us shelter at home, because mind control wants to shut down neuron pathways in the brain. It wants to keep our brains from firing. It wants to keep us receptive and suggestible. We want our brains firing. That's how we're made. We're made to have our brains firing, to have clarity of thinking, to be able to have that kind of thinking. Well, when they told us to shelter at home, they broke our routine patterns. When you break routine patterns, people have to think in new ways. Thinking new ways force neuron pathways open. And so ultimately, they sabotage their own effort to terrify everybody and shut them down with fear and repetitive narrative. But then they opened them back up while they were at home. They looked at their kids. They said, hey, our kids are being indoctrinated. They're being sexualized. What's going on? They looked at the media and in a whole new way, go, what is that nonsense? You know, so people started waking up, and we've reached a point now where people are really have a point of reference for understanding mind control. You know, whereas when I first started speaking out in 1990, there was no real point of reference for it. Boy, there sure is now, and people are fed up with it, and they're not going to cooperate and put up with it anymore.
Well said. Well said. Look, Earlier, you mentioned the idea of these types of predators and this behavior. And I was watching an interview with podcaster Chris Williamson interviewing Eric Weinstein, who had mentioned that he'd met Epstein. And it was the interviewer that described the concept of an apex predator. What I'd like to do is just play a section of this clip for you until he mentions it, because it's the psychology and understanding. I think this is the great leap forward, that people think that just because you're in power, you are elevated to some form of elite. And what they don't understand is that this is not the case whatsoever. Something very, very different, almost as if these people get into positions of power and choose to hunt in packs. And I wanted to get your opinion and just what your perspective is from this very interesting tape. It'll take 30 seconds to get to the point, but we'll have a look and we'll come straight back.
Jeffrey Epstein, super genius financier, was not a thing that existed. Where did the money come from? You're going to mumble Lex Wexner? Okay, so that's what you mumble. But then, there's this missing fortune of Robert Maxwell and this fortune of Jeffrey Epstein that we can't explain. Are those the same fortune? It's like a conservation of money principle, that if you have a fortune that's missing and you have a fortune that can't be explained and they're connected by Ghislaine Maxwell, I don't know. Why is it that no hedge funds, what is it? They file form, I forget if it's 13F. There's certain forms that you have to file. Nobody's ever asked for these things. Who's his prime broker? Where has somebody gone over the prime brokerage? What are his trades? He would have to move the market if he was, doing a yard of euros or Swiss francs or who knows what, like $1 billion. That would move the market. So there's no way you can fake retroactively a hedge fund of immeasurable size that trades currencies. I don't think he was a currency trader. He told me he was a currency trader.
So when you say a construct, who constructs? Who's the builder?
I don't know. I would imagine some version of the intelligence community. Sometimes somebody's cover gets blown. We have a very famous, unfortunate story of Eli Cohn with the Mossad, where Eli Cohn was an Egyptian Jew who was fitted with a backstory that he was an Argentinian playboy who'd made a fortune in Argentina, but was Arabic in origin. And then he moves to Damascus and he takes out an apartment where he holds orgies and becomes the best friend of Hafez al-Assad, right? And so that's an example of a story we know. We know how the intelligence communities of the world create people who don't really exist.
That degree of sophistication, I learned this from Daniel Schmachtenberger. We sat down and he's spent some time with particularly powerful people.
Yeah.
And he told me this really harrowing story of somebody who has both the desire and the means to treat themselves like an apex predator against their own kind. And they said so. They broke the fourth wall about this and said apex predators don't care about the prey, but they saw their own kind as prey. And I asked Daniel, how does it feel to sit opposite somebody who isn't rate limited by the resources, who can not only dream to have this, plus have the motivation or lack of virtue or integrity to go ahead and consider doing it, and then has the capacity, the assets to be able to enact it.
Sure.
And it's reminding me, it's giving me this same something. It feels like it's up on the top of my head. It's giving me some sort of a sense like that.
This was intended to be terrifying. It wasn't an accident. It was intended.
See, I just thought it was important to lay the groundwork there and this discovery within a conversation and what Chris Williamson recalls in relation to this concept of an apex predator. Cathy, that must ring close. How do you read that?
Well, I know that these perpetrators, again, they're not like us and do not like us. They're very different, especially those like George Bush Sr., like Hillary Clinton is very much like that. And they're wanting to make humanity more like them. what Intelligence Insider Mark Phillips was so adamant about is that wisdom outthinks their criminal mind every time. They're following like a DARPA generated artificial intelligence plan, and that's flat linear thinking. You know, when you look at what artificial intelligence is, and these criminals are following that there because they're also that way. When we have wisdom, we have the height and depth, we have the soul, we have discernment, we have capacity to see through illusions. We have so much within us that they fear the strength of the human spirit. They fear our wisdom, and they can't touch it. They can't stop it. They're too low vibration to reach that high vibration, you know? So they use mind control to keep us from being able to think, to access that ourselves. If they keep us in a state of fear, of confusion, of hopelessness, of division, of hatred, negativity, not only is that the energy they feed off of, but we're not gathering our own power to be able to outthink them and stand against them. So I have no fear of them whatsoever, because I understand their thinking is so shallow, and we've got it all. We've got the victory. We've got the wisdom. We have the soul. We have the strength of spirit. We just forgot that we have all the power. So I don't have any fear of their abilities and capacities, because it's so shallow and it's already being discovered, and people are already on it and waking up to the reality that we share this planet with a very low, dark, negative vibration, evil force that's, you know, not like us at all. But that's been the hardest thing for people to wrap their brains around, is the vast difference between them and us. We can't think like they do. There's how much money and power does anybody need? I don't get this, you know, but they can't think like we do. And that's our saving grace. That's our victory. That's why our free thought is so important.
The historic timing of this, you know, virtually, you know, irrelevant conversation in the scheme of the world. You know, you're talking to a fellow in Australia here, but the fact is it's the timing of it. And we are watching from around the world, and the truth shall set us free. And whoever saves one life saves the world entire. So every little bit counts. And for the purposes of that, I just wanted to introduce this short clip also into the record. When you consider that the former Attorney General, Bill Barr's own father, Donald Barr, employed Jeffrey Epstein at a university despite not being qualified, just this clip that I'm going to play for you right now, Cathy, I think is historical. Let me show it to you. We'll come straight back.
Barr's testimony before the House Oversight Committee is kicking off a series of high-profile closed-door depositions. Those are intended to extend through mid-October, including subpoenas issued for Hillary and Bill Clinton. That's all part of the probe into Epstein's crimes and the Justice Department's handling of that case. Mr. Barr's time as Attorney General spanned Epstein's 2019 arrest, his later death at Metropolitan Correctional Center, which he called appalling, as well as Ghislaine Maxwell's arrest. Now, additionally, tomorrow is the deadline the committee has given for the complete DOJ records on the case. So will that deadline be met?
Well, we're having really good conversations. You have to understand you can imagine how many documents there are. I think that we're going to have I think we'll receive the documents very soon.
So there is bipartisan interest in this case, and some see the interest by Democrats as newfound. I mean, they had 4 years to dive into this case. Some see it as them now seeing this case as a way to dig at the current president.
So on the record, Bill Barr walking into closed-door testimony. Now, that is significant. Of course, we don't know what he's going to say. If he takes the fifth, who knows? But when they say bipartisan support, and it only just happened to be because it seemed that Democrats could smell Trump blood in the water, how did you react when all of a sudden Democrats were calling for the Epstein files because of Trump? Did you think that they'd got Trump, or did you think that this was the great ruse and he's led them into another trap?
No, it's been about there's been no party line in this globalist agenda all along. They don't even care about nations, and it's a global agenda. So they certainly don't care about Democrats and Republicans. It's who cooperates and who doesn't. That's the difference. So I don't really see any difference in Democrats and Republicans. I know that Bill Clinton and George Bush were very much cohorts and very close in what they were able to accomplish toward this New World Order agenda. So I'm not the least bit concerned about that. That's just perceptual to make people, it doesn't have anything to do with reality, this Democrat Republican nonsense. And the perpetrators are Democrats and Republicans alike. So I name them in my 1995 testimony for Congress, TRANCE Formation of America. So, it's been that way all along. As for Bill Barr, whoa, he's been bad news ever since he was with Dick Thornburgh, who was the Attorney General of the United States, that was actively involved in MK Ultra, actively involved in the blackmail operations and everything else. He's somebody that I was exposed to extensively, and therefore Bill Barr was actively involved in covering up my case. And I have absolutely no respect for him whatsoever. He's a criminal. He's part of it. He's complicit. When I look at these, they're bringing in the Clintons to testify on the Epstein crimes. It could easily have been the other way around. These people were all in bed together, and the Epstein is not here because he had the keys. He had the blackmail tapes that could put them all away. So, it's just a perception and how we look at it. To me, the ultimate justice is positive change through public awareness. It's going to take the whole world waking up to the reality of mind control, waking up to the reality of this globalist agenda, and then finding their own inner strength to take a stand against it, to reclaim life the way it's intended to be lived, to start living the love they are, get out in their own community, look in their own backyard, look in their own house at the corruption that has permeated every aspect of life and start cleaning that out so we can all reclaim our lives. I'm just not impressed with these so-called proceedings. They seem like a ruse for the people.
Once again, and this is the problem, isn't it? The trust factor completely eroded. Cathy, one of the most significant things that I've noticed in watching you and speaking with you, certainly since the last time we spoke and over the years, is that you are not just a survivor, but you're a thriver, as I like to explain. You are not a victim. You look only for the positives, and if anyone can live in the footsteps or in the shoes that you are and walk in the footsteps that you have, to realize that no matter what's being put upon you, doesn't mean that you don't want justice, doesn't mean that you aren't entitled to compensation, but you choose to live your best life regardless. What makes you so different from so many other people that can't get out of that victim mentality?
I healed from within myself. And we're all equipped with that. And that's what's in PTSD Time to Heal. That's what intelligence insider Mark Phillips taught me. It's what he found buried under national security when he was working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought. He understood what I know from the inside, that without free thought, there's no free will. Soul expression. Without soul expression, we lose discernment of truth, compassion. We lose our ability to align with that divine within, to gather the strength of the human spirit and to the infinite power of love. It's so in that regard, it's like healing from within allowed me to open the neuron pathways in my brain. I can't be triggered anymore. I haven't been for over 35 years. And that has been, gave me the freedom to live my life's purpose, the freedom to keep a balance in life and get out in nature and enjoy animals, and just the beauty that life really does have to offer. And I don't live in a victim mentality, because that's a broken mentality. That's where victims don't know that it's within them to heal, because they're being let outside themselves by really bad therapy, which has been deliberately implemented. It's like the therapists have been indoctrinated to, do bad therapy, and they just need the basic information to pick up a pen and paper. That information is so simple. To the very act of moving a pen activates the logic critical analysis part of the brain. It takes fear, emotionally incomprehensible trauma, guilt, grief, takes any negativity, shifts it over to logic, where it can be consciously dealt with when it's written out on paper in front. So that is opening neuron pathways just by moving a pen. So if everybody did that and wrote out their fear and their trauma, wrote out their negativity, if we put writing by hand back in the school system, we can stop the indoctrination of children right there, because they'll learn how to think again instead of being taught what to think. So there's some very simple things that we all can do. And I encourage that everywhere, so that everyone can reclaim their joy, to reclaim their who they really are. It's time people wake up to remember who they are and why they're here at this pivotal moment in humanity's history, because it's going to take each and every one of us. It's going to take us all to undo this mess, not a closed door hearing by a bunch of perpetrators trying to shift the blame to the other ones. That's not going to get it. It's up to us.
That's such a good point, isn't it? It seems like we're always waiting for that great white hope to come through, but at the very least, it's being brought to a head. And if the people are screaming and demanding for information, then hopefully this will be released. And there are calls, of course, that this will be received on Friday. I'm just going to take a couple of excerpts from your book here. We'll put them up on screen. This is the one on mental health. It's written: the mental health profession is in a state of crisis and has arrived at the proverbial crossroads of failure and success. The road to success seems to be blocked because of national security secrets. That's alluding to what we talked about earlier. It's an astonishing claim there, isn't it, to think that we've created all this damage, but now that we're going to get found out, we're going to call it all classified intel and cover it all up. Is that the best way to explain it?
Yes, it's been their cover all along. They need to operate in secrecy because it violates our humanity. And people are realizing our very humanity has been under attack. And ultimately, that's a spiritual warfare. It's also important to know that knowledge is our defense against mind control. So that knowledge has been suppressed and it's being kept secret. Secrecy is our problem. There's no excuse for it. We need more and more transparency, and we need to, above all, understand ourselves and remember the amazing capacities for healing that we have of body, mind, and spirit.
Do you think that since the whole Epstein thing came out and he was, let's say, taken out, no one knows what actually happened in that prison cell, do you think that anything has slowed down, or has the business of mind control continued on regardless?
It's continued on regardless, because we had the mind control masked as a virus unleashed on the whole global population. And, you look back on it, when you realize it was mind control, it seems ridiculous that we all complied to the extent that we did. What was done to the children, masking them up. Masks depersonalize, and they limit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis free thought. We better have learned from that and never do it again, because we limited oxygen to the brain of our children while they were developing. We've caused some damage to the evolution of humanity that needs to be undone. And when we do, we're going to evolve with quantum leaps into the future, where we no longer can be manipulated the way that we have been. because, again, knowledge is our defense. Once we understand the simple components of it, it's trauma is the basis of it, and sleep, food, and water deprivation. Anything that keeps our brains from firing properly makes us more compliant and easily led. So our brains are being starved. Look at what they've done to our food. It's genetically engineered. It's bioengineered. The nutrients are lost to deliberately starve our brains. Our water has been pumped full of chemicals. Again, starving our brains. And then we work 9 to 5, 5 to 9, round the clock, trying to make ends meet to get food on the table that has no nutritional value. It's a bad cycle, and it's one that is all part of MK Ultra. So when we understand those are the components of it, we see what's going on in our society today, and we choose nutrition for ourselves. We choose fresh water. We choose plenty of rest, sunshine, getting out in nature. Feel the sun on your skin. Feel the earth beneath your feet. Take your shoes off. Hug your dog. If reattach with animals, we need to get back to some very basic human necessities in order to reclaim our humanity and stop this assault on the essence of our being.
Now, I appreciate it's so important, the encouragement, and at the same time, in that the truth shall set us free. It's the understanding of what you went through. I just want to bring up a couple of points here. One of which was Project Monarch. I just put this up on the screen. Mind control is absolute under Project Monarch. I lost control over my own free will thoughts. I could not think to question or consciously comprehend, only do what I was driven to do. So there must be others, obviously, in that system that are in such a situation and haven't got to where you've got today and are out. How might their lives be lived on a daily basis? Are they literally just under someone else's control and can't live a life, or are there moments where they can be who they really are?
There's varying levels of mind control. So it's hard to make an overall assessment. In my case, mine was totally robotic. I had been tortured literally out of my mind, and my mind was shattered. So my experience was extreme. And yet what we did to the children, to mask them up and tell them if they didn't limit that oxygen to their brain and stay away from everybody, and don't hug grandma because you might kill her. That's the kind of thing pedophiles and Satanists do. We're going to kill your mom. We're going to kill your dog. These children were indoctrinated with that. It's horrible what was done to them. And the scars that they bear as a result of that are extreme. They had depersonalization that was redefined as gender confusion. It's identity confusion, not gender confusion, but that was a great time to slip that in order to create a depopulation agenda through the transgender movement. Stops human procreation. It's a very deliberate plan. So then the children were subjected to that. Right after, they had to sit behind plexiglass, stay away from each other, wear a mask. Then it went from that to stuffing dollars in tranny panties. That was happening around the world. That was we messed up the minds of more than one generation, and it's going to take some time to undo it. So, the mind control has affected everyone on some level or another. We all need to expand our thinking beyond what we think we know, because our knowledge base has been manipulated, and we need to wise up fast because we have a long way to go. For people to come back from what has been done. My precious daughter Kelly was saying just the other day, she said, yay, the Great Awakening. Look at all these people are waking up, but wow, do they ever have a long way to go to catch up? And that's so true. We have a long way to go.
Yeah, there's no question there. Now, looking here, the government has been using mind control on its citizens for a long time, and it is known as presidential model mind control. It was used on me by the White House, and it's still used on many others today. Is that, when you talk about that, what you meant by the COVID scenario on a grand scale, or is it something a little different?
It's the same formula, with trauma being the basis of it, and in my case, being used on a White House, Pentagon level. I needed to be totally robotic. I needed to be absolutely disarmed, so I was not used as in any assassin capacity. I mean, you don't do that and get around those people. They needed the safety and security of knowing that I was 100% totally robotic. I'm not the only one that was used on a White House, Pentagon level. But Marilyn Monroe was considered the first presidential model mind control slave. We can look at Maggie Trudeau. She was a presidential model in Canada. MK Ultra mind control. Pierre Trudeau was a master of MK Ultra of individuals, nations, and the world. And she was an MK Ultra mind control sex slave. Who knows who Justin's father really is? But I think we all have clues. But we look and consider the fact that Pierre Trudeau is the one who raised him, and he was very much behind the pedophile agenda, very much for creating Manchurian candidate, family line mind control slaves. So as we look at the White House, the presidential model, MK Ultra mind control slaves, it gives us a second look at these wives that are out there on a global scale.
Wow, that's that is something else, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau looks very much like a former Cuban dictator, and of course we know that that his mother did meet with Castro back in that particular time. But you've made the point there of this family line Manchurian candidate, yes. So not dissimilar to George W. Bush,
right,
who seemed entirely incompetent. And there's much testimony coming out even today. I think yesterday we were just discussing it, how those were saying that that he surrounded him with Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld to keep Junior in line. And Justin Trudeau, again, this is an interesting one because there's some very strange associations with convicted child abusers connected to Trudeau there. So is it a case that these people become the perpetrators even if they are the victims themselves, whereas others draw the line and say no one is ever going to commit a crime again that's happened to me? What makes the difference, do you think, between those two psychologies?
Free thought, being able to wake up from the mind control itself. There are, when you consider that if you've got a family lineage, because Project Monarch is about the genetic family lineage aspect, because it was found in Himmler research that any abuse-based, knowledge-based, or belief system becomes autogenic in the brain after 3 generations. So they use, in my case, it was multi-generational incest-based family. In these families like the Bushes, you've got a propensity for the presidential aspect. So they want to keep it in the bloodlines. If someone is not cooperating with that naturally to be part of this globalist agenda, then mind control is used. They won't use mind control on someone who's already that way. So if mind control is being used, there's something in that person that wasn't cooperating fully. So I know in George Bush Jr.'s case, he was not cooperating fully, so they used him as a full-on Manchurian candidate, and he didn't come across smart at all in any way, but he sure could recite a speech, but he couldn't answer a spontaneous question. So there's varying levels and sliding scale there, but when people wake up from mind control, they're responsible for their actions going forward, and they need to be the one that breaks the chain of their family lineage.
Oh, that's just so powerful. I recall now See, this is the other strange thing. You get two types. You get family lineage, or you get leaders that come from broken homes. So Bill Clinton comes from a broken home. He takes on the surname of his stepfather. Now, not dissimilar to, and not saying it's related in any way, but Kevin Rudd, a former Australian Prime Minister, came from a broken home. And it caught my attention maybe 15 or 20 years ago to do a little bit of research into the times. If it wasn't a family lineage, this broken home. Barack Obama, another example, broken home, ends up in Indonesia with his mother. Apparently, strange concept. And yet he takes this stratospheric rise. It's almost like he's been earmarked at a very young age, becomes this, this brilliant orator, but not much else is known. And quickly there's a biography that comes out about Obama, and all of a sudden he's the next president of the United States, almost playing like that movie Bob Roberts, this mock documentary starring Tim Robbins years ago, vote first, ask questions later. So is there another side to this where these other characters are found, like the Clintons, like the Obamas, even in our case, Kevin Rudd, and then they're catapulted to this perhaps Manchurian candidate themselves?
It depends if they're suggestible or if there was, someone else involved that made the genetic link. There could have been an affair. There's so many variables. It's really hard to say, but it's whoever cooperates. If they don't cooperate and have the intelligence level and propensity for it, then they're mind controlled. In the case of Bill Clinton, from my personal experience with him and having been around him, he very much believed in genetic alteration of humanity for creating a slave society that could align more with artificial intelligence than he did in the pedophile agenda that George Bush did. I've heard them discussing it at length, and Bill Clinton was more for the cloning aspect, as if one's any better than the other. They're not, and obviously both are involved in both of the issues, but still they bring something different to the table and if they've got a piece of the puzzle that no one else has, and an ability that others don't have, then they're let in the club for that aspect.
Just putting this picture up here, they're thick as thieves,
Yeah.
Literally, Bill Clinton defeats George H.W. Bush for his second term with the help of, Ross Perot's candidacy there. But there's a famous picture with the two of them, with a very much younger Bill Clinton with George Wallace in black and white, where they're sitting around drinking beer, and you're wondering, how is it that this character could know the head of the CIA, be on the opposite side of the political aisle, be a nobody at that point? It doesn't quite make sense. So it's like they are known to each other beforehand. And like you said, there could be an affair or some sort of lineage. Now, Barack Obama looks incredibly like the Indonesian president. It's almost like they could be brothers. That's an odd one. Bill Clinton looks incredibly like some of the Rockefeller family. And you wonder how that might work, where these real stories come from. Trudeau, obviously, it looks like a former Cuban president. And of course, it could all be nothing. I mean, Bill Clinton's own daughter, Chelsea Clinton, dubious, looks like Will Hubble. Again, it doesn't make much sense. There's that video, of course, as we're going down this sort of mind control process, where Bill Clinton is sitting in a chair with makeup on, and it looks like he's completely mesmerized, that he's not in his own body. Have you recalled or remember that particular video?
I've seen it, and people think it means that he's under mind control, and I definitely don't see it that way. Having known him, he could be stoned. He could be thinking about what he's got to do in that particular thing. Whatever, he's definitely not connecting with the person doing the makeup, because why would he? That's not. He's not animated to. He wouldn't anyway. He's busy elsewhere. So I don't really take it at that. Maybe he found out, he's in some deep trouble over something. I don't know, but whatever. It definitely isn't a matter of mind control, but it could be it could be any number of things in that particular clip.
It certainly makes you ask questions, though, doesn't it? Because you think that they can't quite be in there, or they're off somewhere else. When you consider that both Bill and Hillary are forced to give evidence separately at this particular oversight committee, do you have any sort of feeling that that something, at least the right questions will be asked, or do you think that they are going to dance like they've always danced and nothing much will come of it?
I would assume that even if the right questions are asked, they're going to dance like they always do. They don't call him Slick Willie for nothing. I mean, that guy is so slick. He'd talk his way out of anything. He redefined the word "is" in his, at one point. Like, come on, this is so silly. Hillary, she's so vile. I have no idea. She'd just, evil her way through. Just I can't imagine. But I strongly doubt any truth would come out, and even if it did, what will be done with it? What justice system will prosecute this? Not ours.
Now, that's such a good point. Now, let me ask you this question. Let's apply the Al Capone method, if you will. So many of us became aware of that story through that Untouchables film with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery, and Al Capone was taken out for tax evasion. If Hillary Clinton was to be prosecuted for the origins of Russiagate in relation to trying to bring down the president of the United States, and she was to be charged and was to be convicted and perhaps was even to serve time behind bars, would that bring you any form of peace, knowing that at least she'd been dealt with, or do you feel that would be just a mockery of what you've gone through? How would you be able to rationalize that?
So many people have been hurt since I already exposed her crimes against humanity. The number of children, there is no justice for that. There's nothing that would be sufficient. What's going to be really important going forward, though, is that other perpetrators know that they're going to be held accountable for their crimes. They have not been for generations. They think there are no consequences for anything that they do. If we can make that rule back in play, then I think that would be the greatest hope that could possibly come of this, is to be able to stop this this total lack of injustice, this total lack of consequences for criminal actions.
When that smell of blood, if you will, from Trump with the link to Epstein that got everyone excited, and at least on the Democrats, and they're all coming out and they were making these claims, Trump is a child abuser, or these horrific claims, etc. Now, we don't know. We haven't seen any evidence, and at the same time, those of us that have been following this for at least a decade now have looked and can't find information, and even Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer said the same thing, etc. But what I would say to these people was, well, hang on a second, why are you only interested now? Why have you not made any reference to the movie The Sound of Freedom, for example? That was only out a couple of years ago. Show me your review of that film. Like, surely to goodness, that would bring the attention to people, because if you had sit through that film, you couldn't come out of it and your life not changed if you didn't know that was going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think a whole lot of people woke up when Trump was elected the first time. So many people were awake and aware they overrode the rigged electronic algorithm and put him in. And Hillary Clinton was supposed to be in to usher in the New World Order. So they freaked out. And then it's just been a matter of, they couldn't blackmail him. They couldn't buy him off. They couldn't do anything else. So they did a character assassination through the media. Now there are a lot of people that would like to see anything happen to him because they've been conditioned so strongly by the media, rather than look at the fact that he's the one who exposed this whole mess. He exposed Epstein to begin with. He exposed child sex trafficking and MK Ultra mind control. I know from my own life's experience that the perpetrators feared him back in the mid-'80s because he openly opposed drug and human trafficking across open borders. He openly opposed MK Ultra mind control being used through the State Department. So these are things that I'm aware of from a different angle. Does that make him innocent of all things? No, he's a human being. Does it mean that he's perfect in all things? Not at all. I'll tell you what, he promotes McDonald's hamburgers. I'm not eating one. You just think free. Think free. You're supposed to analyze information instead of snap judge people. So I would encourage people to do that. And ultimately, we need to start self-governing. We need to remember our own power. We need to shut down all this governmental nonsense that we've been relying on all along. So I'm not for politics, but I think people need to open their eyes and also realize that Mark Phillips saw children being taken in and out of the White House because he was there. He saw children being taken in and out of other places because he was there. He was appalled. But do you know how many pictures could have been taken? Do you know how many pictures were taken of me in those places because I was being used in them? Things aren't always so black and white. And people need to open their eyes, open their minds, and start thinking beyond snap judging people. Because even if the Clintons are prosecuted, even if that were to happen, and we finally know that people are going to be held accountable, we need to realize that doesn't stop the problem. Someone else is going to fill in. Just like Epstein Island, there's another one, I'm sure, that has cropped up somewhere else. You identify them, they move it somewhere else. So we need to open our eyes beyond the what we're seeing at the moment in order to effectively stop it going forward. And that's going to require stop snap judging people and start looking into the reality of what this agenda is about.
So once we understand what's really going on, and this is the hardest thing, isn't it? Because it's all done in secrecy. At that point, we can kind of understand what's really happening. And therefore, when you look at it through a political lens at the moment, that all of these stories coming together at the exact same time, Russiagate, in relation also to Ukraine, Russia today, the negotiations still not at a ceasefire, but at the same time coming to a head, all of those European leaders getting on a plane, arriving at the White House together, literally sitting outside the office waiting for him. It's an extraordinary photograph that we've seen pop up in that regard. I've actually got it here for you. Have a look at this. This is the leaders waiting for Trump, literally waiting outside the principal's office. It's just unbelievable. So just to bring things to a head. Now, at the same time, we've got this House Oversight Committee going forward. Bill Barr, that's another one coming to a head there. And if we are to see arrests finally, one way or another, at least indictments and some judgments and truth, then people might start to realize, hang on a second, Trump's just changed the economy. He's talking about removing income taxes for those earning below $150,000 a year. Yes, there are tariffs, etc., but that's part of this whole redistributing in favor of Americans. If you can then create a prospering American economy and give hope to young people or any people that they can, buy a home and live the American dream once again, it would then stand to reason that the people that have now been put in handcuffs were the problem all along. It's almost as if there's going to be a mushroom cloud effect at that point. So given that, I just feel like the timing, it has never been more purposeful right now, plus the fact next year you've got the midterms. It all has to be over in the next 13 months or it will never happen. And therefore, could this well be the moment in history we've been waiting for our whole lives?
It could be. I love the way you put it like that. And it's definitely a possibility. And if the economy does improve like that, then people aren't going to have to be working round the clock. They'll finally get some rest. They'll be able to buy nutritious food. So we're breaking the whole cycle that we've been under. And if people are held accountable for their actions, if there's consequences for crimes against humanity, humanity wins. We've got to find a way to stop the reign of terror that has been going on for decades now.
We are literally fighting for the survival of the species And we're fighting against the people that are telling us that there is disease trying to take us out, but they don't tell us that they created the disease trying to take us out. And there is the great big trick. And Cathy, you have lived it. You have talked about it. You have written about it. You have met and lived a life with Mark Phillips that has created the infrastructure for you to tell the world your story, and in the process change it forever. You are doing God's own work in one way or another, and I don't think that was what you ever thought would ever happen, but here you are, and it has been a great privilege and delight once again to speak to you in the opening of this Clinton crime series, but it's a whole lot bigger than that, and may justice finally fall, and that beautiful beaming smile project out onto the world and heal everyone who needs it. Cathy O'Brien, thanks for your time today on Channel 51 News Special.
Thank you.
It's just been extraordinary. Well, thanks, Cathy. We will conclude today's show there, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. And just so that you do know, trance-formation.com. You must go there, and anyone who wants to get hold of this information, and I know you will, please check out the books. You can buy them on Amazon and check out the other work. And just quickly, I think I've got a graphic to put up here for you. It's about an event coming up, Cathy. I just want to quickly put it up before we go. I'm just going to find it right now. This is for people to follow with what you are doing. We'll put it up right now before we go. Here it comes right now. There it is. This is the End Human Trafficking, Transhumanism and Tyranny, Team Iowa, Team America, and you're involved with that. That's another event coming up. I think it's there it is, September the 13th. So there you go for everyone to check that out. Please do. Cathy O'Brien, thank you again. We'll see you all on the next show.